Christopher Hitchens quotes. Owners of dogs will have noticed that, if you provide them with food and water and shelter and affection, they will think you are God. Whereas owners of cats are compelled to realize that, if you provide them with food and water and shelter and affection, they draw the conclusion that are gods. That which can be asserted without evidence, can be dismissed without evidence. Everybody does have a book in them, but in most cases that's where it should stay. Human decency is not derived from religion. It precedes it. The essence of the independent mind lies not in what it thinks, but in how it thinks. We keep on being told that religion, whatever its imperfections, at least instills morality. On every side, there is conclusive evidence that the contrary is the case and that faith causes people to be more mean, more selfish, and perhaps above all, more stupid. Stupidity, especially in its nastiest forms of racism and superstition. What do you most value in your friends? Their continued existence. Exceptional claims demand exceptional evidence. Many religions now come before us with ingratiating smirks and outspread hands, like an unctuous merchant in a bazaar. They offer consolation and solidarity and uplift, competing as they do in a marketplace. But we have a right to remember how barbarically they behaved when they were strong and were making an offer that people could not refuse. Was not a friend of the poor. She was a friend of. She said that suffering was a gift from God. She spent her life opposing the only known cure for poverty, which is the empowerment of women and the emancipation of them from a livestock version of compulsory reproduction. I suppose that one reason I have always detested religion is its sly tendency to insinuate the idea that the universe is designed with you in mind or, even worse, that there is a divine plan into which one fits whether one knows it or not. This kind of modesty is too arrogant for me. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get in line, and kiss my ass. The Bible may, indeed does, contain a warrant for trafficking in humans, for ethnic cleansing, for slavery, for bride price, and for indiscriminate massacre, but we are not bound by any of it because it was put together by crude, uncultured human mammals. For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him will believeth in anything. Hitchens 3:16. The governor of Texas, who, when asked if the Bible should also be taught in Spanish, replied that if English was good enough for Jesus, then it's good enough for me. What can be asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence. To the dumb question why me, the cosmos barely bothers to return the reply, why not? How dismal it is to see present-day Americans yearning for the very orthodoxy that their country was founded to escape. Violent, irrational, intolerant, allied to racism and tribalism and bigotry, invested in ignorance and hostile to free inquiry, contemptuous of women and coercive toward children, organized religion ought to have a great deal on its conscience. Thus, though I dislike to differ with such a great man, was simply ludicrous when he said that if God did not exist it would be necessary to invent him. The human invention of God is the problem to begin with. To choose dogma and faith over doubt and experience is to throw out the ripening vintage and to reach greedily for the Kool-Aid. The man who prays is the one who thinks that God has arranged matters all wrong, but who also thinks that he can instruct God how to put them right. I have always found it quaint and rather touching that there is a movement libertarians in the US that thinks Americans are not yet selfish enough. The women of Afghanistan, Iraq, and Iran who risked their lives and their beauty to defy the foulness of theocracy. Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Azhar Nafizi as their ideal feminine model. "You should be nicer to him," a schoolmate had once said to me of some awfully ill-favored boy. "He has no friends." This, I realized with a pang of pity that I can still remember, was only true as long as everybody agreed to it. I became a journalist because I did not want to rely on newspapers for information. I try to deny myself any illusions or delusions, and I think that this perhaps entitles me to try and deny the same to others, at least as long as they refuse to keep their fantasies to themselves. Time spent arguing is, oddly enough, almost never wasted. Never be a spectator of unfairness or stupidity. The grave will supply plenty of time for silence. The noble title of dissident must be earned rather than claimed. It connotes sacrifice and risk rather than mere disagreement. We owe a huge debt to Galileo for emancipating us all from the stupid belief in an earth-centered or man-centered, let alone God-centered, system. He quite literally taught us our place and allowed us to go on to make extraordinary advances in knowledge. God did not create man in his own image. Evidently, it was quite the other way about, which is the painless explanation for the profusion of gods and religions, and the fratricide both between and among faiths, that we see all about us and that has so retarded the development of civilization. My own view is that this planet is used as a penal colony, lunatic asylum, and dumping ground by a superior civilization, to get rid of the undesirable and unfit. I can't prove it, but you can't disprove it either. If you gave Jerry Falwell an enema, he could be buried in a matchbox.